Emily Dawson had always been a quiet anchor. For 23 years, she had helped shape the marketing voice of Harlan and Blake, one of the most respected consumer brands in the region. She had been there through 4 rebrands, 2 leadership transitions, and a merger that nearly tore the company in half. Through it all, Emily stayed steady, professional, the person everyone came to when things went sideways. But lately, no one came to her anymore. It started subtly. Meeting invites stopped appearing in her calendar. Memos that used to be reviewed by her now went straight to junior staff. Projects she had once led were reassigned without explanation. At first, she brushed it off as oversight. Then came Cassandra Lynn. Young, polished, and full of buzzwords, Cassandra swept into the company with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. She called herself a brand revitalizer and spoke endlessly about disruptive clarity and emotional analytics. Within weeks, she was promoted to director of marketing, leapfrogging over more experienced candidates. Emily watched her rise without comment. Until Cassandra became her boss. On their first one-on-one, Cassandra gave her a glowing smile and said, "I've always admired your tenure here, Emily. So much legacy knowledge." She paused, then added gently, "But we're moving into a more agile era. I'm hoping you'll be open to evolving." Emily smiled politely. "I've always adapted," she said. "That's why I'm still here." But the erosion had already begun. 2 of her longtime accounts were reassigned to better match brand direction. The content strategy she'd written for a product launch was presented in a meeting, with Cassandra's name on it. And when she asked about it, Cassandra gave her a confused look and said, "Oh, I thought you were just drafting ideas for inspiration." Then came the formal performance realignment conversation. Cassandra called it a growth check-in. HR was not invited. "You're doing great foundational work," Cassandra said, crossing one leg over the other. "But some on the team feel like your energy has been less dynamic lately." Emily blinked. "Less dynamic?" "It's not a bad thing," Cassandra smiled. "It's just, the younger staff sometimes need a faster pace. You know how it is." Emily knew exactly how it was. That night, she sat at her kitchen table staring at a cold cup of tea. The light above her flickered slightly, casting her reflection onto the window, soft lines, tired eyes, a woman who had once been called indispensable and now was somehow invisible. Her phone buzzed. It was a video call from her daughter, Mia. "Hey Mom," Mia said, wrapped in a college hoodie, book stacked behind her. "You look tired. Everything okay?" Emily hesitated. Then shook her head. "Just a long day." "Did Cassandra pull another 'let's circle back on your project'?" Emily gave a dry laugh. "She reassigned it." Mia's face tightened. "Again? I think I'm being faded out." There was a pause. Then Mia leaned closer to the screen. "Do you remember when I almost quit my design internship because they kept giving me meaningless work?" Emily nodded. "You told me, don't let people pretend you're invisible. Speak so clearly they can't ignore you." Emily exhaled. "I did say that. So say something." Emily looked at her daughter, the same girl she had once held through nights of fever and heartbreak, and felt a strange mix of shame and strength rise in her chest. She didn't sleep much that night. But for the first time in weeks, her mind wasn't spinning with anxiety. It was sorting. Stacking. Preparing. The next morning, she arrived at the office early. Earlier than she needed to. Earlier than anyone else. She sat at her desk and opened a blank Word document. She titled it Timeline, Departmental Changes Post Cassandra Lynn. And she began to write. Not for revenge. Not yet. But because her silence had never protected her. And it wasn't going to start now. Emily didn't storm into offices. She didn't raise her voice or send accusatory emails. She observed. She listened. And she documented. What began as a timeline on her personal laptop quickly grew into a quiet archive of patterns, omissions, and choices that all pointed in one direction. Cassandra was not just pushing her out, she was manipulating the truth to make it look like a mutual failure. It wasn't enough to ignore her. Cassandra needed to erase her. And Emily knew it. The file folders in her archive were simple. Meetings. Emails. Budget notes. Gaps. Each section contained red flags that Emily had spent years instinctively ignoring, because she'd trusted the system, the company, the idea that doing good work was enough. But now she saw clearly. Cassandra wasn't just undermining her. She was rewriting history, and using Emily's silence to do it. One folder, though, was different. It was titled Audio. Emily had never considered recording her coworkers. It felt like something other people did, people in legal dramas or messy scandals. But after the third accidental omission of her name from a joint report, she bought a discreet voice recorder. She didn't use it often. Only during one-on-ones or post-meeting debriefs. But one recording changed everything. It was a Friday afternoon. Most of the team had left early. Cassandra's office door was slightly open. Emily had gone in to drop off a revised timeline Cassandra requested. What she walked in on was a conversation she wasn't meant to hear. "I don't care how long she's been here," Cassandra said, her voice sharp. "If she doesn't resign by next quarter, I'll build a case. Reassign her, reclassify her, whatever it takes. I'm not dragging Deadweight into next year." There was silence. Then laughter. From someone else. "Won't HR push back?" Cassandra scoffed. "I'll spin it. Low engagement, inflexible to new direction, poor team fit. They'll sign whatever I hand them." Emily froze. Then quietly backed out of the room. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She walked straight to her desk, pulled out the recorder she'd left running in her coat pocket, and saved the file to her external drive. That night, she listened to it again. Not because she needed to. Because she needed to hear herself not flinch. The next day, she called someone she hadn't spoken to in over a year. "Thomas," she said when he picked up. "I need a favor." Off the record. Thomas White had worked in Harlan and Blake's legal division for nearly a decade before moving to a compliance firm. Emily had helped him weather a PR crisis 5 years ago that nearly cost him his job. He owed her. And more importantly, he believed her. "I can't give you legal advice," he said, "but I can tell you that if what you're holding is real, HR won't be able to bury it. They'll try, but they won't succeed." Emily sent him a summary file that night. Not the recording. Not yet. But enough to make him understand. A week passed. Cassandra called another check-in meeting. "You've seemed distant," she said, with a tight-lipped smile. "I want to make sure you feel supported, even as we're going through these realignments." Emily smiled calmly. "I feel very clear, actually." Cassandra blinked. "Sorry?" "Clear," Emily said again. "About where I stand. About what's happening." Cassandra's smile thinned. "Well, I hope it's not personal." Emily leaned forward slightly. "It's not personal. It's procedural. I've been watching closely." There was a flicker of something in Cassandra's eyes, doubt, maybe. Or the first tremor of fear. Emily didn't push it further. She didn't need to. By the end of the week, Thomas sent her a message. "It's enough. The moment they make a move, deliver it. All of it." Emily printed 2 copies of the file. She saved the audio file to 3 different drives. One in her purse. One at home. One mailed to a trusted friend, just in case. She didn't want revenge. She wanted accountability. And now, she had everything she needed to get it. Monday morning. 8:55 a.m. Emily walked into the small meeting room at the end of the 14th floor. The room had no windows, no decoration, just a cold wooden table and 2 chairs placed deliberately across from one another. Everyone knew what that room meant. Cassandra was already seated, her blazer pressed to perfection, a manila folder in front of her, and a pen laid neatly beside it like a signature waiting to be forced. Victor from HR sat beside her. He didn't meet Emily's eyes. Not because he was cruel, but because he was complicit. Once upon a time, he had said good morning to her with genuine warmth. Now he looked like a man hoping to disappear into the wall. "Emily," Cassandra began, her voice coated in sugar, "thank you for being here. We wanted to have a conversation about your current role and our strategic priorities moving forward." Emily didn't flinch. She simply reached into her leather tote and placed a thick brown envelope on the table. "I also brought some documents," she said calmly. "Might be worth reviewing together." Cassandra's smile thinned by a degree. Victor shifted uncomfortably as Emily pulled out a stack of neatly organized pages. Email threads. Budget reports with altered recipient data. Project notes stripped of her authorship. A printed transcript of a recorded meeting where her name had been scrubbed from credit. Finally, she placed a small black flash drive beside the papers. "This drive contains audio from a team planning session last month," Emily said. "It includes commentary that I believe violates company ethics guidelines and HR policy." Cassandra's color drained slightly. Victor opened his mouth, then closed it. Emily's voice remained even. "It's not the full file, just the relevant part. You can listen with your legal department present." Cassandra sat frozen. Victor cleared his throat. "Emily, I think we need to pause this conversation and conduct an internal review." Emily stood slowly, smoothing her jacket. "I'll be in my office until end of day." She turned and walked out without a word more. She didn't look back. That afternoon, while Emily was wrapping up the last of her desk items, Victor called her back. "Cassandra has been suspended pending investigation," he said. "Effective immediately." His tone was different now. Honest. Regretful. "We're truly sorry, Emily. This never should have happened." Emily nodded. But it did. She declined the company's offer to reinstate her or negotiate an extended retention plan. She didn't want to stay where integrity had become negotiable. She didn't want revenge. She wanted peace. She packed a single box. A framed photo of her daughter Mia. A small plant that had somehow survived 4 reorgs and a flood. And one handwritten note that she had kept since her second year at the company. It said, "Thank you for making this place human." As she stepped into the elevator, the sun filtered through the west windows. The city outside looked unchanged. But something inside her felt different. Stronger. Free. That evening, Mia called. "I saw the news," she said. "Your company made the business journal." Emily smiled faintly. "So I heard. You okay?" "I'm not okay," Emily said. "I'm better." 3 months later, a new sign hung outside a cozy studio space in a repurposed brownstone. Greyline Studio. Ethical strategy for modern brands. Emily now worked on her terms. She advised small businesses, nonprofits, women-led startups. She helped them build honest campaigns with substance and soul. She didn't chase headlines. She taught others how to speak up before they had to scream. One day, a young woman walked into her office. Nervous. Brilliant. Recently laid off. "They told me I was too idealistic," she said. "That I asked too many questions." Emily listened closely. Then she smiled and said, "They weren't afraid of your questions. They were afraid of your clarity." That night, Emily closed her laptop and looked out the window at the quiet city skyline. She had not been erased. She had rewritten the story. And this time, the pen was in her hand. It was raining the day the letter arrived. Not an email. Not a text. A real envelope, addressed by hand in careful cursive, postmarked from a city 3 states away. Emily sat at her desk in the studio, sipping tea and watching the water bead on the window. She had just wrapped a workshop for mid-career women launching their own consultancies. The room had been filled with laughter, nerves, and that electric sense of new beginnings. She opened the envelope without thinking. Inside was a single piece of stationery. Dear Emily. You don't know me. But I knew Cassandra. I was the copywriter who shared a cubicle wall with your old office. The one who kept quiet when things got ugly. I was afraid. I needed the paycheck. I told myself you were strong enough to handle it and that I didn't need to get involved. Then I saw what you did. And I realized I had mistaken silence for survival. I left 6 months after you did. Not because I was pushed, but because I finally found the courage to walk away. I started my own small agency last month. And I try to do it the way I think you would. I guess I just wanted to say, thank you. For showing me that quiet doesn't mean powerless. There was no signature. Just a single line at the bottom. You weren't alone. And now, neither am I. Emily read it twice, then folded it neatly and placed it in the drawer beside her tea mug. Outside, the rain kept falling, soft and steady. She looked around her studio. Light streamed in from the tall windows, falling on the worn wooden floor and the ideas pinned to the vision board. Voices echoed faintly from the hallway, new voices, brave ones, beginning again. She smiled. Sometimes the loudest impact doesn't come from a scream. Sometimes, it comes from the quiet strength of a woman who refuses to disappear. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge doesn't come from shouting. It comes from quiet strength, precise timing, and the refusal to be erased. If Emily's journey moved you, let us know in the comments. Comment 2 if you found this story inspiring. Comment 7 if you think it could have ended differently. And most importantly, tell us, what would you have done? For more true stories of resilience, justice, and redemption, subscribe to EN True Tales, where every voice matters, especially yours.